Okay, 8.1, this is about exponents. This first part, you can see a squared times a to the third power is a times a times a times a times a times a, which ends up being a to the fifth, which is the same as 2 times 2 plus 3. So I think you remember that from before, that when we have the same number going to an exponent, you can add those exponents together. Let's see. And that's basically what it's saying right down here. Using these similar, well, so then the other thing that we know is when you have an exponent in parentheses to an exponent, then you're going to multiply those exponents. So that's like right here, we've got 2 to the fifth, and then that whole thing is to the third. And this time you're going to multiply, so it will end up being 2 to the 15th, which is what it says right there. And then the third kind of exponent property you're learning about is a, b, or two things. You could have 2x, you could have whatever it is, it's to the third, then you can actually split that up. So if it was 2x to the third, that could be 2 to the third power, which is 8, and it would be 8x to the third power. So it's just taking that parentheses out. So this one right here, we'd get 2x to the third to the squared times x to the fourth. So you just kind of take it one step at a time. First, you want to start by getting rid of the parentheses. So kind of similar to the order of operations that you used to do. And so you want to get rid of the parentheses. So we're going to take that squared and we're going to put it to everything that's inside the parentheses. And so it's going to be 2 squared, which is 4, and then x to the 6th power. So 4x to the 6th power times x to the 4th power. Now if I have x to the 6th power times x to the 4th power, I can add that 6 and 4 together. So it ends up being 4x to the 10th power. So, and that's much simpler, and you can actually work with that number as opposed to this up here. That's really for this chapter. All you're doing is just property of exponents and different ways to manipulate those exponents, different ways to work them around. This one up here, you're going to apply 8 to the 13 and the 24. You could also multiply the 13 and 24 first and then apply the 8. But it would be, well, I guess all of these examples, they're trying to have you apply it to this one and apply it to that one. The reason you want to do it that way is sometimes it's going to be a lot easier to do the numbers when they're broken up, as opposed to once you've multiplied them within the parentheses and then doing them to the 8th power. But also, like this one, that's 9 squared, x squared, y squared, and that ends up being 81 x squared, y squared. Or -4, whenever you take a negative number and you square it, it's always going to end up being a positive number, because 2 negatives to a will always end up being a positive number. So 16z squared is the answer to that one. This one is going to be -16z squared, because we have the negative outside. We're not squaring the negative, because whenever you square a negative, it's going to end up being positive. But the negative's outside, so it's -16z squared. That's all for 8.1.